Hello and welcome to the world famous and award-winning Driving You Crazy podcast. This is the show where we talk about all things transportation, anything that gets you from here to there. I'm the traffic anchor and the transportation reporter for Denver 7 News, Jason Luber. If you would like to contact me, all my information is in the description of the show. You could also rate the show, which helps it out in some way, which is kind of cool. So do that too if you don't mind. Well, here in Denver, Waymo has been testing their robotaxis for many months, and I've seen them in the city streets. I recently saw them on the interstate, both in the middle of the night when I'm going to work, and in the late morning testing their capability in a highway setting. And I was just told earlier today that they are now fully autonomous, but they're only taking their employees around on rides right now, and they're not ready to take passengers just yet. Now, I have not ridden in one, and I still have some concerns before I get in one. Someone else who also has some concerns is Amy Witherite. Amy is the founder of the Witherite Law Group with offices in Texas, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, places where Waymo are operating. And she asks this question: is it time to pull robotaxis off the road? So to answer that and much more, let me welcome Amy Witherite to the show. Amy, thanks so much for being here on the world famous Driving You Crazy podcast.
All right, very good. Thanks for having me, Jason.
All right, Amy, before we get to you and answering that question, you basically practice in the Dallas area, and Waymo operates there already. I could probably predict this answer, but have you ridden in one yet?
I have not. I don't believe it's safe enough for me to ride in. I have many friends who have tried it out, but I got to tell you, I'm not looking to ride in one of these robo-taxis until we get the safety kinks worked out.
Do you think that you should maybe, before you offer the opinion that they shouldn't be on the roads, you should maybe try one out?
I don't think so right now, because I don't believe the technology is advanced enough to put myself or my family in one of these driverless vehicles yet. I think if it was on a closed course, I think if it was the option was we had a human being in the driver's seat to ensure that nothing went wrong, I'd be more than happy to try it out. But I don't think getting on our congested Dallas or Chicago or Atlanta or Philadelphia streets is the right way for me to get the experience of whether or not Waymo is safe or any other robo-taxi is safe.
So let me ask you that question that you were asking. Is it time, in your opinion now, then to pull these robo-taxis off the roads?
I don't believe that the public should be the guinea pigs for determining if these Waymos and robo-taxis are really operationally ready. So yes, I think they need to come off the road. I think Waymo recently acquired a big plot of acreage. I think it's about 44 or 5,400 acres in Arizona to do some closed course testing. I think that's a really smart move. We need more of that. I do believe eventually the technology is going to make us safer. We're just not there today. So let's pull them off the roads today until we get them safe.
My guest is Amy Witherite. She's the founder of the Witherite Law Group. We're talking about whether robo-taxis and autonomous vehicles and cars should be on the roads. So where do you see the greatest risk with these cars? For the people riding in the car, for other drivers near the robo-taxi, for maybe people crossing the street, or a bike rider, or maybe somebody having a heart attack and the paramedics can't get to that person because they're stuck behind a Waymo?
Well, I think you hit all the above. All of those are problems. We've seen repeated incidents with first responders who are unable to respond. Recently, we had the Dallas explosion at an apartment complex. The constable could not clear the robo-taxi off the roadway. He had to contact someone through a scanner code on the windshield to then get the window to come down because the handles, you couldn't open the door without talking to somebody. And I believe he spoke to somebody in the Philippines about eventually moving the robo-taxi out of the way of what turned into being a 4-alarm fire, and we had 3 people die in it. So that's not good for any of us. And we can name those same instances with school buses. Our children are crossing in front of the school bus. The sign says stop, and the robo-taxis just drive through the stop sign. We're very lucky no children have been injured, but that happened on over 20 occasions in Austin. You've got the whole debacle over the 4th of July in San Francisco, stopping traffic on the Golden Gate Bridge by the Presidio. because Waymo couldn't adjust to the fireworks and the influx of pedestrians and drivers. We could go on and on and on. These are serious circumstances, and a human life is just too valuable for us to be the testing grounds.
Is it fair to say that an autonomous car is similar to my 15-year-old daughter who is just getting her learner's permit and they're still trying to get comfortable with what to do when a fire truck shows up or what to do if somebody's tailgating her or get comfortable with how to get around on the roadways? As obviously, as you get older, you become more and more comfortable and more seasoned with how to drive and you become a better driver. Could the same be said for these cars?
I think that's a pretty good analogy because that's what we're seeing. When your 15-year-old is driving, and I remember when my daughter Ella started driving, we were in the car with her. Or where we started was the parking lot right down the street where there were no cars, where we had no risk of hitting anybody. And then we're physically with her. I'm sure that you're doing the same thing with your kids. And as they get better and smarter and anticipate what goes on with driving, I sure hope we all become better drivers. I do think that's where we are with this technology. It is still learning, and it just needs to learn in a more controlled, safer environment.
Autonomous vehicles, their advocates will argue that their cars are on balance safer than human drivers. Do you think that it rings true since there are so many more human drivers and human driven miles than autonomous cars and autonomous driven miles at this point?
Yeah, you're pretty spot on, Jason. You've been doing your research because human beings, and especially these autonomous big trucks, we're driving billions of miles each and every year. And the autonomous robotaxis or trucks are driving less than 2 million. It's less than 1%. So your sample size is skewed. And we know that the National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration has logged almost 1,800 wrecks, even though we've got fewer miles. I think the technology in the future will get there and make us safer. It's just not today.
My guest is Amy Witherite. She's a founder of the Witherite Law Group, talking about whether robotaxis and other autonomous cars should be on our roads. I made a request to Waymo for comment regarding your question earlier today, and whether it's time to pull these robotaxis off the road. Now, Sandy Karp from their communications team called me earlier today and told me they could not provide their safety, or they could provide their safety data versus human drivers, but didn't want to make any comments specifically about what you have been saying or about previous issues that you have brought up with these robo-taxis. And they said this. They said they don't know your background, adding they don't know if you are an autonomous vehicle expert or what other qualifications you have to speak out against them.
I think I'm just a concerned human being that is attuned and using common sense to see that the multiple occasions of robo-taxis and Waymos and these trucks causing problems and injuries is enough that you should raise your hand. Now, I would love it if Waymo or anyone else wants to invite me in and show me their data and show how many times a human being had to take over the operation, show me how many times that they have safely maneuvered it. If they would be transparent, I would welcome that. I would welcome it to go to Arizona to their new, or maybe they're still building it, their closed course, and have them show it off. But they don't want people like me or people like you to truly, if I could use the pun, look under the hood and see how these companies are really operating.
Well, Sandy did offer me she said that they were going to be right now just taking the driver or the employees on rides, but they were going to be out here in Denver in August. And she said at that point, she would call me up and say, hey, do you want to come check out our cars? My thinking was here when she said August, that is probably when they're going to start going fully autonomous and allowing passengers then to start using those cars. So it looks like it'll be another month or so before they start being used here in Denver.
Yeah, it sounds that way. And it is interesting that Waymo continues to try and find the best weather months because none of this technology is tested under ice, snow, sleet, fog, rain. They're tested under perfect circumstances because they're all being operated either by LiDAR lasers or cameras or a combination. And there's no evidence that I've seen that shows that these cars can perform in adverse conditions. So if you do get the invite, you should do it in August. It's probably the safest month with the most sunshine. And give me a jingle and see if you can boondoggle a ride with me.
Okay, I will. I will definitely do that. And I did ask Sandy about the whole weather issues because I've been covering Colorado winters for 35 years. And I know they are different. And I was talking about how the snowstorms are here different because they were testing cars in Minneapolis and Detroit and New York. And I said, those storms are different than what we have here in Colorado. You should know that. And it's
Sure.
just totally different. And it can be great 1 minute and then not the next. And it's just totally different here.
Yeah, the Front Range, it could be snowing and -10, and then the next day it's completely sunny, or it could happen the same day. It's really hard to tell and predict. But I think there's some real insight when you look at there are over 7 states that have now revoked robo-taxis, including Waymo, to operate. New York City being one of them, New York State. You've also got, I've got a whole list here. But Boston, Seattle, Washington, D.C., San Diego, all of these cities are withdrawing the right to have robo-taxis operate in them because they've had such poor success. I think those are really strong indicators. There's more testing, there's more learning, just like that 15-year-old needs to do before they're out, whether they're on the Denver streets or anywhere else.
Now, I know you have said there isn't enough federal or state oversight on these driverless vehicles. If you were crafting legislation, what would it look like?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. You certainly need transparency and you need third-party testers. You need somebody who is not financially benefiting to come in and give accurate assessment of the software, of the lasers, of the camera, of the offshore. Remember, they're offshoring the consultant person. You could be talking to the Philippines, you could be talking to folks in Colombia. People that don't even have a driver's license in the United States are the operators of these vehicles when things go awry. So you want a third party person, entity, company to come in and really look under the hood and see what all the problems are. And if there are good things happening, tell us what's happening that's good and right and what's being improved on and what's the pathway to success. I think you want to craft some legislation that gives us that transparency.
Have you worked with any of the lawmakers, either in Texas or the other states that you operate in, on any legislation around these vehicles?
There were some attempts in Texas in this last session in 2025 to put some guardrails around self-driving vehicles. And because Texas, since 2021, has no restrictions whatsoever. And there's enough uproar between robo-taxis driving in the floodwaters in San Antonio and the incidents around the school buses in Austin and the first responders that the senators tried to craft some framework. I'm going to tell you, it's too little. They need to do more. It's really legislatively light, and it doesn't put an independent third party in there and to assess the robo-taxis, and it doesn't provide any statistical transparency. So we see how bad or how good their safety record is. If their safety record was that good, Jason, don't you think they'd be touting it like a flag?
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. And they offered to send it to me, but have you offered your assistance to any of those legislators saying, hey, I can help you craft some legislation or at least help you work some of the laws out that might be beneficial to everybody?
100%. We reached out to the senators in Texas to try and get that legislation. I'll say none of them reached back out to me. But Texas is a very independent state, so I'm not surprised.
My guest is Amy Witherite. She's a founder of the Witherite Law Group. We're talking about whether robo-taxis and autonomous cars should be on the roads. Do you feel the same way about these driverless trucks that are being used on Texas roads as you do about these robo-taxis?
Oh, even more so, because those are 80,000-pound vehicles, and those are catastrophic collisions. and we are driving them. They're going from Phoenix all the way to Villa Rica, right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. They cross the entire state of Texas. They are going every day from just outside of Dallas to just north of Houston and down to Austin. These are some of the busiest, most congested roadways in the country. And they're not going the last mile into the cities yet. Thank goodness. They're stopping at warehouses approximately 20 to 30 miles outside of the major urban areas. That is helping to reduce the statistical likelihood of a wreck, but it makes me awfully nervous because I drive those roads.
Yeah, we all drive those roads. And
Hmm.
you know, insurance companies are not known for their altruistic ways. They will only insure what they believe is worth the risk. Waymo has a fleet insurance policy right now, so their insurance company apparently believes that their risk is worth the premium.
Well, I think their fleet insurance is a self-funded. I think it would be interesting to know how much of it comes out of Waymo's pocket before they get to any kind of real insurance by another party. And my guess is it may be a captive insurance company, which is permissible under the IRS rules, but you're in a very high risk pool. It's really an investment product. And it's not like their policies are being underwritten by a State Farm, a Progressive, an AIG, a Chubb. I think you should dig into that if you get that invite in August to ride with them.
And, you know, as we go farther and farther down the road, if you will, there's also going to be some more complicated legal questions. Maybe you've seen that Will Smith movie, I, Robot, where the robot picks him to save over the little girl because there was a better probability that he would survive and she wouldn't. There have to be a lot of questions regarding who is at fault in a crash. Is it, or other incident? Is it the car maker? Is it the software company? The municipality because of infrastructure issues? The operator of the robotaxi itself? I mean, you have to see all that playing out in some kind of way, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. You're going to have to sue everybody and you're going to have to do a lot of discovery. You can't forget about not only is it software, but it's also the cameras and the lasers. Then you got the manufacturer, you got the retailer and their representations, you got the product manufacturer of the actual vehicle versus the product manufacturer of whatever makes it self-driving. And we're seeing this come to light in assisted driving cases that you'll frequently see with Teslas. It'll be on assisted driving, but GMC has a eyes off, hands free mode
Mhm.
now on a lot of their trucks and cars. And we're starting to see those malfunction and not adjust to normal everyday driving circumstances. And we're plowing into who all's responsible for the harm caused.
Yeah, that seems like it's going to be a real can of worms down the roadway. And you have been called a nationally recognized advocate for traffic safety accountability, but you're also famous for your 1-800 truck wreck commercials.
Sure.
Is your long time campaign speaking out about these vehicles, maybe positioning yourself to file suit against these driverless vehicle companies or other makers of the equipment, as you said, or the software companies, if something does go wrong?
We're here to help anybody who gets injured in any kind of truck wreck. And I will tell you, the vast majority of the cases we have now are involving human beings. There are very few because I think, again, it's not as frequently used in a self-driving or a hands-off, eyes off mode. So we're not seeing as many of those, but it wouldn't surprise me if we get some calls for it. But the reality of life is we need to be speaking out in a collective voice to warn the public to be very cautious and to pressure these companies that are positioned to make billions and billions of dollars on this technology to make sure the technology is safe. And if they make it safe, I'm a capitalist. Go for it, make money off of it, but let's not kill people while you're trying to make money.
Specifically regarding municipalities, they're really good at ensuring that they don't get sued, at least out of existence. Do you see liability issues with faulty infrastructure with municipalities, or is it really all about the makers of the vehicle and the technology?
Well, I think it's really hard when you talk about any kind of governmental entity because they all have built-in immunities. So every state has different waivers of the immunity. I don't think you're going to get to blame a city, a county, or a state for mistakes made by any kind of product. You can see that a lot in construction cases now. If you got roadway constructions, you still got to deal with whatever the Department of Transportation is for the particular state. And did they waive their immunity? And can you really hold them responsible because they hired a contractor that doesn't have a safe construction zone and caused a wreck? You can get there in some states, but it's very difficult. So I think our state and local governments have done an excellent job ensuring they don't get sued, or they only get sued on very rare opportunities.
And there's another really not talked about issue here that's happening with autonomous cars, and I have talked about it with other folks that are in this space, is hacking and terrorism. What if someone gained control of the vehicle in some way, trap the passengers inside, maybe force the car to crash into a crowd of people or into, like we've seen at parades, that sort of thing? What happens, do you think, in those kind of situations? Do you think it's possible for these things to get hacked?
Well, I think it's a higher likelihood it could happen when you're using offshore. So you've got two scenarios. You've got software that could be hacked and infiltrated by bad actors, but you also have a lack of control when you're nearshoring or offshoring operators working on self-driving safety mechanisms, because that's what they're supposed to be there for, is the safety. So how do you know that whoever was hired in the Philippines was appropriately vetted from a security standpoint? You could have that same problem here in the United States, but I would say it would raise the likelihood of risk if you're offshoring or nearshoring. And we know Waymo's doing it. We know that almost every self-driving robotaxi or robo truck is having offshore people monitor and quote unquote intervene when necessary. So yeah, I think it's a real risk for taking, we don't need another 9/11 flying into, the World Trade Center. And it could easily happen on a vehicle by vehicle. And what if you got them all going like a hive mentality? You could have a multi-prong attack against every city where you've got these self-driving robo-taxis and vehicles. It's something we don't need to cross, and nobody in any capacity has any information. What are the safety and security mechanisms for the cybersecurity at all these companies?
Well, and there's even simple acts of sabotage that I have seen where a group of kids will jump out in front of the car or and disable it. They'll change a road sign. They'll do something silly like that, and it disables the car altogether, and it can't figure it out.
Lord, I have not seen that, but I do know if you leave the door open or the trunk open, the vehicle won't move until they call a human being, and then you got to dispatch the human being to shut it. I hope the kids don't do that. That's way too dangerous, but I get what you're saying.
Is it your feeling then, as we're wrapping up here, that all autonomous vehicles should be taken off the road for now or forever?
No, just for now. I don't think it's a forever thing. You have to look at the evolution of all of our motorized vehicles, from seat belts to anti-lock brakes to now we have crash avoidance systems. I don't know about your car, but if I go to pull into the lane and there's a car next to me, my car tells me don't do that. If you doze off, your car wakes you up. If you're not paying attention, your car brakes for you. All of those things are great safety improvements. I do believe self-driving vehicles will get there. I don't know when. It could be in my lifetime, though, mine and yours. It could get there, and we would reduce the hazards and deaths and injuries on the roadways, and that's a good thing.
I know. I kept telling my daughters that their children might not ever learn to drive a car.
Yeah, isn't that something? Well, they don't know how to use a payphone. It wouldn't surprise me if they don't know how to drive a car. It's coming, and I do think it'll reduce deaths and injuries. We're just not there today.
Yeah, they don't know how to drive a stick shift either, and they also but they also know on the flip side the UV number. For some reason, they're all into the UV number.
I don't even know what UV is. That's how old.
It's just the sunlight. You know how much sun is out there.
I got you. I
Yeah,
got you. Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I can't do anything with any of those apps and stuff.
yeah.
I got to get my daughter to help me or my IT department to help me. So I understand I'm an antiquated old lady, but eventually technology is going to pass us all by and it'll be for good. But let's just not kill people to get there.
Yeah, exactly. My guest, Amy Witherite, founder of the Witherite Law Group, and an advocate for getting, at least for now, robo-taxis and autonomous cars off the roads. Amy, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. Best of luck with your advocacy in the future.
All right. Thanks, Jason.
All right, if you want to reach Amy, their office is, or their website, rather, is witheritelaw.com, and you can get the link also from the description of this show.